Awesome. Well, thank
You're
you. And
getting
Diane,
tired. Are
we're
Love it.
you
looking
tired
forward.
of us?
What was that? I'm sorry, I missed you. Say it again.
You are already tired of us. I mean, spent the whole morning and now again.
Right back at it.
Never tired of our people. So all good. Thanks for
Never,
being here.
never tired.
All right. Well, let's jump into it. First of all, happy holidays, everybody. This is going to be, well, I guess we're going to have one more call next week for our huddle, and then we'll be off for the new year, I believe, right? So, um, yeah. So thanks for being here. Today, we're going to talk about mastering the needs analysis, in the experienced agent recruiting presentation. So we're going to move really quickly here, but we want you to ask questions. Since we have a smaller group, this is a great opportunity for you to have questions. If you have them to ask, and we'll go through them. A couple of things that are important to note that this needs analysis is probably the most important component of the experienced agent recruiting process. Would you agree with that, Jessica?
100%. And I wished I would have figured this out sooner in my career because I was more of a listing presentation or a presentation style versus this style. And with experienced agents, you can't get away with that. They won't move. They don't find value if you don't have this conversation.
Yep. So it's really a consulting, conversation that you're having when you're doing the needs analysis, where we're asking questions, we're self-discovering, getting them to self-discover their reality. We're going to touch on the four quadrants a little bit later, but where we're taking them from their current present situation, whether it's positive or negative, and then moving them into the future, whether that's positive or negative. We're going to talk about those things. So before we get started, let's touch on our recruiting academy that we're launching, that we're so excited about. We're launching here in January. This is a brand new program that we've put together that is 90 days, a 1 hour call once a week. And it's going to be, really about mastering the recruiting skills that you need, understanding the MRA models and how to recruit to those, really understanding what our value propositions and prescriptions are, and how to communicate those at a deep level. So you can see kind of what we cover from week to week, and it's experienced agent recruiting at the highest level. So this program is really geared to help people, again, fast track the learning curve on how to be a great recruiter of experienced agents. So you'll
Well,
see
and
more
along the
information on that.
way, worth mentioning along the way, we're role playing and real playing for you on and kind of educating you along the way with what these value propositions are. So if you're using them for coaching or for recruiting, like how do you connect the dots on that? Because Rich and I have been around Keller Williams for quite some time. And when we started, we just had the red book, and now you have so much. So it's a great like high level orientation as well to really know how to use those tools really to level up. So I hope you join us. And today, really, Rich, I love the analogy that you've given over and over and over again of how the recruiting process is like getting around the bases in baseball. So can you give
Yeah,
us a quick glimpse on this? I know we have very limited time, but this
sure.
really helps.
Sure. So this is a model. So we're big on models at Keller Williams. Here's the experienced agent recruiting model. So this is like a game of American baseball, since we have our international people here, right? And so in baseball, to win the game, you have to get people on base that can score runs when people get hits. So in our game, the way that you go from home to first base is by setting an appointment, a recruiting appointment, and with the experienced agent. So what do you say? How do you get somebody that doesn't want to be recruited to meet with you when they know that's why you're calling? So we have to get good at that. We got to get to first base. Once we get to first base and we want to go to second base, that's what we're talking about today, which is the needs analysis. What's the conversation sound like that gets them to self-discover their reality and their need for solutions to get to their goal? And so we establish a gap during the needs analysis in between first and second base. And then when we get to second base, we then bridge that gap where we go through the 10-step recruiting presentation where we talk about our value propositions and the prescriptions that are needed for them to bridge that gap so that they can get to third base, right? And start reaching their goals. So going from second to third base is where we then close and start handling the objections that they have about moving. But yet, what's great about this, and you'll learn this, as you understand the needs analysis and the 10-step presentation, is that we get them to close themselves because of the way that we ask the questions and what we get them to self-discover. So when we share our prescriptions and value propositions, we get them to quantify how many more deals they think they could add to their business with those. And that's what bridges that gap. So it makes closing and objection handling easier. So then when we go from third to home and score our first run, that we do that through the agent transition process, and then we have a great orientation on wow experience as they're an agent in our office, and then we leverage their relationships for referrals. We call that leveraging the hire, and then we go around the bases again. Okay.
Such a great analogy and great way to think about it. And you can't skip bases in this process. So to get from base one to base two, you have to do the needs analysis. You need to understand through a business consultation, a conversation, what's their gap, all that has to be created, right? And that's the whole goal of a successful needs analysis.
Yep. Now the needs analysis, 28 questions, really understand that, that sounds like a lot. If we put all the questions and the follow-up questions and the drill down questions that you would have in the full conversation, it would be like 100 questions, which obviously we can't do that. So this is just an outline for you to follow and a guide for you to use when you're having the conversation. And just know that you'll ask additional drill down questions. You'll reframe their answers for clarity and those types of things in the conversation. But this is really just an outline to follow and guide to use. So the goal, as we talked about earlier, is to establish a gap and establish a need that they have in terms of getting to their goal, and realizing that they don't have the solutions on getting to their goal. Otherwise, they wouldn't be behind their goal, right? So, and we'll show you, we'll demonstrate a little bit of this today. So that's really the goal. So, but after you get through the needs analysis, it should be very clear what the agent's goals are, their challenges, and the lack of solutions. If that's not clear, then the agent's not going to move, because there has to be a more compelling reason for them to want to get a different result. Otherwise, the fear of change will cause them to stay put. So it's really important how you ask these questions and get them to self-discover the pain and the reality that they have of not accomplishing their goal and not having the solutions on how to do that. So they have to acknowledge their reality. They must be motivated to change their result. And if they're not, you want to refocus on those questions again to get them to really connect with their reality, that they are motivated to get a different result, especially as they move into a new year, right?
Well, and it's important to kind of check in at this process of the bases, and you stay at first base until you get here with them through conversation. You don't just go right through and start presenting, because that's where you lose them. So I think it's important, you've got to check yourself where you're at in the process. And sometimes this whole process happens in one conversation, right? 1 2 hour meeting. Or it could be a culmination of 3 or 4 different meetings till you've gathered enough, they felt comfortable enough with you, they've shared enough for you to kind of move forward together. So it is a process. It's not necessarily done in one conversation, but it often is.
Right. And let's take 5 to 6 minutes, and we'll demonstrate the first part of this, so you can see how it flows. And then when you pivot into the presentation, you can do that about halfway through at about question number 12. And you can just go right into the presentation and make it a one-step meeting, right? Or you can finish the rest of the questions and turn it into a two-step meeting and so on. Okay. So I've got the appointment with Jessica now. I called her on the phone. I wowed her enough that she wants to meet with me. And now she's come in. And then I'm just going to say, hey, Jessica, I appreciate you taking the time, out of your busy schedule to get together with me. As I mentioned,
You're freezing a little, Rich. He's frozen.
in order, uh-oh,
Okay, you're back. You're back. You froze for a moment
okay,
there. So let's start over. Do over. Take
okay,
two.
gotcha. All right. It's always great when you have internet problems at your office. I love it. Okay. So, so Jessica, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to get together. As I mentioned over the phone, I specialize in helping agents build business. And in order for me to share with you some year, I need to ask you some questions first. Would that be okay?
Sounds great.
Right. So now I've got permission to be in control with asking business questions. So how long have you been in real estate, Jess?
For about 5 years, I started in 2020.
Okay. What were you doing prior?
I had a marketing and events little side business, and I was a mom before that.
Okay. So I could say, hey, tell me a little bit about that and how many kids do you have and how did the marketing thing go and why did you decide to move from having your own business and marketing to go into real estate, right? I could spend a few minutes doing that, but for sake of time, I won't go there in our role play. So Jessica, do you feel like at this point in your business after 5 years that you've reached your potential?
I don't, and that's why I agreed to meet with you, frankly. I was doing really great up until a couple years ago, and I don't know. I'm really struggling this year. I'm like doing half as much I'm used to, and frankly, I don't have a plan.
Okay. So what would you say that next level of success would be for you? You said that you're doing half of what you're used to. I mean, what does that mean to you?
I used to close a deal every month, sometimes two a month, maybe sometimes a zero every now and then, but I'm used to two deals a month at least,
Okay.
and 10 to 12 closings a month at a bare minimum. And I this year I think I'll end up around five, maybe six.
Okay. So when you look at kind of your vision for your business moving forward, what would you like to see in 2026 and then beyond that?
I love real estate. I really enjoy this, but I need to have a stabilized income. And I really have a lifestyle that needs two closings a month to be happy. So I just would like to get back there and then kind of regroup and figure out what's next. I've thought about doing some flips. I thought about doing some investing, but again, I need a bigger cash flow in order to do any of this.
Okay, so you need to get to two deals a month, and currently you're doing about one, did you say?
Not even. I'm going to be lucky if I close out at six. So one every
Okay.
other month right now. It's not good.
Gotcha. So we need to more than triple your production next year for you to get to the lifestyle, back to the lifestyle that you're used to living.
Yes. Now that you say that,
Yep.
that sounds really painful, but yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, let's look at that. I mean, the lifestyle that you want to get back to, what does that look like? I mean, are you going on
Yeah.
trips? Are you investing? What does that look like?
Well, I want to live comfortable with what I need and not be worried about money or worried about a payment or worried about having enough if I see a great buy. And I'm just really on fumes right now. So I really need to regroup this year.
Okay, gotcha. And on a scale of 1 to 10, how committed are you to getting back to that two deal a month?
Absolutely a 10 because if I don't, I'm really probably gonna leave the business and try to get back into something with more consistency. I would like to
Okay,
stay
so
in real estate. That is definitely the goal.
gotcha. So it sounds like failure is not an option.
Not at all.
Okay. How do you see yourself doing that? Obviously, we're at the end of the year. We're starting a new year. How do you see yourself like tripling what you did this year to get back on track?
I've looked into a couple different companies that would do my social media and some video. I don't know what the best route is there. I've looked at Zillow Flex. I really don't really want to spend that money, and I don't really want to go that route, but I've thought about it. But I don't really have a plan.
Okay. All right. So do you think that that's one of the things that could be holding you back is that you don't have a plan?
Absolutely.
Okay, gotcha. Would you like me? Well, before we go there, let me ask you. So, how's your current broker helping you with these challenges you're having?
Boy, my broker is really nice and helpful when I need them, but I haven't really thought to ask them for any help here. She's really not like doesn't work like that. Usually, she'll call me back if I have like a question, but she doesn't really work on our business.
Just not really consulting you and asking you these types of questions to help you get clarity on what you need to do.
No, she's more retired and in doing her own thing and investing. But she's really great when I need a question answered. But yeah, not working on our business.
Is that something that you think would be helpful in your business to have somebody help you, like what we're talking about here?
Absolutely, yes. That's why I agreed to meet with you. I do feel like I'm a worker. I'm not afraid to work. I just need to know what to do.
Yeah. So would you like me to share with you, Jessica, what the agents are doing right now this year that are doing 2 to 3 deals a month right here locally?
Yes, I really would.
Okay, great. So that's where I can pivot, right? And then I can go into the presentation because I already have the ammunition that I need to be able to, she's already set up, so to speak, right?
So I want to
So
backtrack because on
now,
the
yeah,
slide these show up kind of goofy. So he brought me through you guys from one and then to
to about,
14 or 12-ish. And then on the next screen, it shows the pivot. So I just wanted to show that. So, like right there, he
yeah,
has enough ammo to pivot, right, Rich?
yeah. But you notice that if you go back a slide, you notice that
Hmm.
I followed kind of the guide or the template. So go back to the first questions. So we went through the questions on do you feel like you've reached your potential? Tell me about your big why. Scale of 1 to 10. How important is it for you to hit that goal? And those kind of
And then you
questions.
asked me about how my broker's helping me. And
Yeah,
because I've
right,
given him so much, and this is how it goes half the time, he could pivot right now. Or if I'm not
right.
giving much and we need to dig in deeper, you could continue on, right?
Right. So I could ask some additional questions about, tell me about your technology platform. Tell me about your database. What kind of return are you getting from that? Because I'm just gathering ammunition, right? Because I've got a whole database program, right? And all those things. I'm not going to get into presenting right now. I'm just setting her up by asking questions, getting the light bulb to go on in her head so she can see that as much as she likes her broker, the broker's not helping her. And this is what she's saying she needs to help her stay in the business by getting back to 2 deals a month. Okay. Does that
And
make
this is
sense,
a
everybody?
real situation too that I know you guys are hearing internally as well as externally as well. So we're trying to be as real as possible for you guys. And yet, let's just say I wasn't sharing as much or Rich wanted to find more gaps. I recommend that you get more if you can because you don't want to just solve one problem, you want to solve their problems. And I do feel that question 20 is one that you should bring up whenever you can around their database because, Rich, isn't that the easiest gap to fill? Like the database assessment, the lead generation model,
For sure.
command, right? So the only thing I would
It's the
say do
number
a
one
little
place that
different.
agents get their business
Yep.
from.
So I follow this
Yeah.
over and over, you guys, for years, this little system. And yet I would say the database question I brought up sooner, just because that was my style. But I lived off this little approach. And when you do this, even if you go through all the questions, it takes less than 20 minutes. Not even joking. So although
Yeah.
it looks like 28 questions, it's not like that at all. Rich and I have it to a point where it's conversation, right, Rich?
Right. And a couple of the great questions are 21. What do you see that's holding you back from reaching your goals in real estate? And then if you had guidance in those areas, whatever they say, right? Could you do some more transactions? And how many do you think you could add to your business per year? And so now I'm getting them to start quantifying what fit bridging the gap would mean for her and her business. And I haven't even said anything yet of what I have.
Right.
So
He
you
has
see how I'm
not
setting
mentioned
her up?
KW at all. Not at all.
Right.
That's the key right there, too.
Yeah.
And when you look at these questions, it's not like as soon as he brings up tech, he's going and pitching command, or as soon as he brings up the database and finds out there's a big gap, he's going to the database assessment. What he's doing is he's getting all of his ammunition so that when he pivots to the recruiting presentation, he's solving the problems. Okay. So some people, they may give you two things. Some people might give you five. Some people might not share much and you need to ask all the questions to pull enough out. Some might be really open, like for this demo that I am, where I'm just kind of spilling the beans. I'm like, this is where I'm at. You'll get all different personalities, right? But this talk track, if you guys follow this, it's a gem. And once you've mastered it, then you can think four quadrants and see how this flows around the four quadrants just as easily. But I would challenge you to get to know this well.
Right.
Learn this first before you get creative, right?
Absolutely. And you can use this on your ALC and your own agents if you want to practice, right? The
Yeah.
majority of these questions. Okay, so let's get into the four quadrants and just touch on that, tie that together. Um, and then we'll open it up to some questions. So this is what Jessica was talking about earlier on that transition. So if I'm transitioning to a second appointment, go back one slide.
Oh, sorry.
Transitioning to a second appointment, then I would say, hey, I've really enjoyed, Jessica, the opportunity to get to know you today, find out what's important for you and your business. I've taken extensive notes, and I'd like to review my notes and formulate a specific business strategy for you. I've got some great ideas I'd like to share with you that'll impact your income immediately. Why don't we get together tomorrow at 10 o'clock and I'll share these ideas with you? So if I'm going to set up a second appointment, I want to do that as soon as possible because time's not our friend in recruiting. If I say, hey, let's get together next week, she's going to forget about everything we talked about and all that emotion. So I want to try to do a one step. If I can't do that, I want to do the two step and I want it the next day.
Exactly. Now, if we were to pivot, for those of you that have learned this as the four quadrants, if you take Rich's questions and just follow along, you'll see this follows the same talk track. And the goal with the four quadrants is taking someone from wherever they're at, if it's positive or negative present, to negative future where they share their gaps and you have a deep conversation about how that is impacting them. Or if they were to correct it, how they would benefit. And you're showing them that they need to make a change in their behavior, in their activities, in their actions, in their location, in their brokerage, right? So this all follows that same psychology. And if you listen to Rich and I demo, you realize he didn't talk about Keller Williams at all while he was in positive present, or negative future. And the pivot is where you go to the 10-step recruiting presentation. And that's when you start talking about Keller Williams. So you never mention KW until you're back up in positive future. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is most of us, the mistake we make is we start the conversation and we don't follow a talk track like this. And they tell us something. And we find out something negative about their situation, like a gap, like they need an assistant. And we get excited and we get into solution mode and we get into selling and telling on like how we could help them, what class they could go to. They could do a KPA. We may have a candidate, all the things. And what does that do? We go right into positive future and it pushes them away. And they never feel the pain and they never move. So if you look at the questions, they actually line up perfectly for the four quadrants. And again, we're going to give you this whole PowerPoint, everyone that registered. So you'll see that's all this is a talk track, right?
Yeah. Those are some great questions there. I mean, another great question if you're not getting anywhere with somebody, they're not opening up is, what's the one thing that's holding you back in your real estate business that, if it wasn't holding you back, would have the biggest impact on your business next year. So we're really attempting to flesh out what's missing, right? What's missing from them that if it wasn't missing in their business, and then that's where we can then come up with the solutions of the 10-step presentation. So where we're at this point is on that baseball analogy. We've got to second base. We did the needs analysis. We're at second base. Again, to Jessica's point, we haven't talked about KW, any of the solutions. Um, we're at second base, going to third base. Okay, in the analogy.
So back to our
All right.
class, this is what we're covering. So today we touched on just a little bit of what we would cover for a full hour in week 2 and dive much deeper. But the first 4 classes are setting appointments, this needs analysis, pivoting into this recruiting presentation that we're talking about, and then moving into offer with prescription, offer to close, offer to get them to move, or the nurture that you may have to do. So that's the first 4 weeks. Then we dive into MRAA and then really into the more advanced value props. So if you've got a gap here, this class starts on the 8th of January. We'd love to have you. It's very limited space. So reserve your spot right away because we're fired up. I think this is our best work ever, to be honest with you. And for those of you that don't know, I used to recruit 20 plus a month for many, many years in a row, and it's because of this guy as my coach. You know, he shared and showed me how to master this because I naturally went into selling and telling. I pitched like crazy, and I needed to learn this talk track in order to go to the next level. And once I had this done, then it was learning the company better so that you could plug into value props and lead better. So just know that this is all about leveling you up to really kick butt this next year. We'd love to have you there.
Yes. Anybody have any questions at all around what we talked about today? Any challenges with it?
Just remember, your R2 agents, your ALC, you should do this with because you should know what you need to help them with this year, right? So practice. Print the needs analysis off. You're going to get this from us. Print it off and actually just practice this conversation with your own people because it's the same. And the more you do it, the more conversational it becomes. And really, when you think about it, your goal should be to know how you need to help your top agents, your ALC this year. So go practice. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for
Well,
making time for
thank you
us.
all for being here.
Yeah, and we'll send you
Yes.
the recording and we'll send you the materials. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye bye.
guys.